Yes, yeah. Physicals, early returns on the physical are all good. Just swung by and with our nutritionists and the trainers, and obviously you do all the blood work and things like that. But looks to be everyone's in a pretty good spot.
When you look at the roster, there are a lot of new pieces that have been added this year overall. A lot of time until opening day, but how do you evaluate the roster as you head into the 2025
Well,
season?
we're excited. I mean, I always caution at this time, it's February. We have high hopes and big dreams, rightfully so. Like we're gonna go to battle here starting tomorrow with the pitchers and catchers, and later in the week with the position players, with a talented group capable of a lot of things. But right now, that's what it is. We have a chance to be a really good club, which is usually the case year in and year out when you get to put on this uniform. But now it's on us to go start doing the work. And a lot of guys have been doing that work, obviously, in the winter. And you see guys over at Himes, kind of reminiscent of what we saw last year, guys being down here early, ready to go, hungry to get after it. And it's an exciting time, as for those of us, you guys as well, that this is our livelihood, right? Baseball is our thing, like this is one of those times on the calendar that is a very exciting time where there's a lot of optimism. A lot of teams feel that way. We certainly have a right to feel that way, but we got to go deliver on that optimism now, and that work starts in earnest here tomorrow.
To the left, Otis.
All right, Aaron, going to the World Series means a short off, so that's a good problem to have. How do you deal with the day-to-day, knowing that Yankee fans and people around the organization will judge this team all the time about getting back to a World Series and possibly winning it? How do you deal with that on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah,
It's such a long grind.
Yeah, I mean it's the best way to have it. We have an ownership group and an organization that demands excellence and puts us in a position to have a chance to be an excellent team year in and year out. And, you want to make good on that. And to have the amount of fans that care intimately about every single thing we do, whether it's on a Tuesday night in May or whether it's following every offseason transaction, following what's happening in the minor leagues, the amount of interest that is there, that's why it's such a privilege to do it with this organization, with this team, and the alternative of being places where there's probably that roller coaster of I don't want to say apathy, but because no team out there has that, every team there's pride and dedication, but it's at a level here that's different, as we all, that have gotten to experience it, understand. And there's a lot of responsibility, and that goes along with that.
Andy and Bruce.
A year ago, excuse me, you talked about coming in, there was an edge to the group that was kind of unique because of the season you guys had prior. Do you feel like you, excuse me, have to duplicate that or create a different kind of edge or motivation because you had such a better result last year?
Yeah, I love this question. I've been thinking a lot about this really over the last month. I think you can have a great situation, a great culture, a great closeness about your team, a great professionalism about your team. I think sometimes the separators where a team that's good can be great, a team that's great can be a champion, what have you, is that hunger. That is not a given, even with the best of people and the best of teams. There's no question in my mind last year we had that edge. We had a hunger, maybe in part due to coming off a season in which we didn't make the postseason. For the people that experienced that here, I think that showed itself very early in camp. But we got to work at that. That's not a given. And what I'm seeing so far across the street, I'm very encouraged by. Like the level of focus, the level of commitment seems to be there. But we got to work at that every day. We got to fight for that every day. That's the thing, you kind of hold each other accountable. Like we want to walk in these doors every day with a hunger that can be a difference maker, especially in a long, tough season.
Bruce in the front.
Aaron, following Soto's departure, what do you think about how the organization pivoted, and how do you judge it?
We'll judge it in the end, right? But I think really proud of the pivot, as people would say. You know, whether it's from ownership on down through our front office. Like, look, there's no running from the fact of losing a player like Juan Soto, and we all saw how important he was to our club last year. And we did a lot to try and keep him here. I think everyone understands how much we wanted him back. That being said, there's a lot of ways to build a great team, and I think the moves that we've made this offseason give us that chance. And again, that's what it is right now. It's a chance. We were a team that went to the World Series last year. It's not easy to do that. We've got a long road ahead of us to get back to there. But with what we have and the moves we've made this winter to go along with what we already had, I feel like we have that chance there. We have that template. Now it's on us again to go out and deliver on that.
Tina, in the middle, in the back.
Aaron, coming here with this pitching staff this season and coming off of the way that the World Series ended last year, how do you look at this group, knowing what you know, what happened, and what you learned from that, and what are the challenges they'll be facing?
Well, I think looking back last year, I think one of the strengths for us, or one of the reasons we were able to win our division, was the start that our starting pitchers got us off to the first couple months of the season, and that was with Garrett Cole going down. But if you look at the first few months of the season, I think outside of I think we had a doubleheader day where we had a spot starter. Our five guys were taking their turns and taking it with excellence, and it allowed us night in and night out, man, we were giving ourselves a chance to win. And that put us in a good position so that, you know, you're inevitably going to hit a bump in the road along the way. We struggled, I think, for probably a good 6-8 week stretch there where it wasn't easy for us in July and August. But what the starting rotation did for us out of the chute really set us up for success, night in and night out. Obviously bringing in, you know, Max Fried this year to go along with much of the same guys that are returning, hopefully a healthy Garrett to start the season. Like, we have a chance to be excellent on the mound, and I would like to think even better on the mound than we were a year ago. But again, it's early February, and we've got to go handle it.
Brian, and then Jake.
Aaron, what are your thoughts on the third base competition? What are your expectations for DJ this year?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for somebody to grab it. DJ's healthy, which has really been the issue for him over the last couple of years. You know, he's had those things that have popped up that have really, you know, zapped, you know, his greatness. And I'm not going to put anything past a healthy DJ LeMahieu and his ability to hit. So hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully he's one of those guys that kind of kicks the door in and grabs it and runs with it. We certainly know what he's capable of, coupled with, you know, being outstanding defensively. Oswaldo Cabrera is going to get opportunity to really kind of kick that door in, if you will. You know, Peraza, Vivas, all those guys that you're looking for somebody to kind of step up and grab it, or if it becomes a shared position, that's possible too. So those are, you know, some of the exciting questions that are in front of us, and hopefully we get answers to that.
To the right, Jake, and then Eric.
You mentioned the idea of creating a hunger, creating an edge. How much of that process do you view as your responsibility coming from the top down versus, say, happening maybe more organically amongst the players from the bottom up?
I think it's all of us. I think there certainly has to be a tone set at the top, without question. But when I'm talking true edge, true hunger comes internally from guys, and you've got to have that drive day in and day out. Now I'm part of setting that tone and hopefully pulling some of that out. Our coaches as well. So I think it's a little bit of everything.
Eric. To the other side.
Do you start camp, Aaron, assuming Jasson Dominguez is your starting left fielder?
I'd like to think so. But again, he's a young guy that's still got to go out and earn it, and hasn't hasn't played a ton of baseball for as fast as he's gotten to the big leagues and as much success as we've all seen him have, and I think all in this room would recognize just how talented he is. I'd love for him to secure it and grab it, but my expectation is that he will, and I'm looking forward to seeing his continued growth. Coming off a season in which he, obviously was coming off the injury from a year ago, really did a lot of really good things, had some bumps in the road too along the way, which are all important parts of the growth process, especially for a young player. But I feel like he's in a good spot right now. He's got a good look in his eye, and he's going to get every opportunity to be that guy, and we certainly are hoping he shows us that.
How much growth do you need to see defensively from him?
I think it's just experience. He's been working his tail off over there for the last 10 days, 2 weeks, every day, getting his work in. So, some of the bumps he had there last year was really just a result of probably not having a lot of reps and not having a lot of experience. He certainly has the ability and the talent to do it at a really high level out there. So he's got a little runway now. I know Louie's been working closely with him already. So we're excited to see that really play out here, especially in the Grapefruit League. Like, if you can play outfield in the Grapefruit League, you're in a pretty good spot.
Brendan. Oh, did you have one, Randy? I'm sorry. My bad.
Last year at this time, Stroman was one of your big additions. Has a pretty good first half. You're hitting the low twos. Tough second half. Doesn't pitch in the postseason. Now, if all your starters stay healthy, doesn't have a spot. In the past, he's been outspoken when he's been unhappy. How do you deal with that? I know a lot can happen. Injuries happen. You talk about that a lot. That if he's a guy that stays here, not traded in your bullpen, how do you create a role for a guy who's a big money veteran who's been to the All-Star team a couple times and clearly wants to start?
Yeah, the situation is what it is. We have a lot of guys that you would expect to be starting pitchers in the big leagues, Marcus being one of those. So saw him today, had a good conversation with him today, feel like he's in a good mental place. He's physically ready to go. And the bottom line is we're getting him ready to pitch. And, those things kind of have a way of working themselves out, especially as we sit here again in the middle of February, cream rises to the top and feel like it'll work itself out. But right now it's about getting him ready to go to be a real contributor. And I'm pleased with where he's at mentally, really, and just getting to see him and talk to him today. It's maybe a little bit of an awkward situation just with all the noise around it this winter, but I'm comfortable with where he is in his focus and his physical preparation coming in. So, there's always competition and, position unawareness and things like that. But every team, most teams go into spring training with 6, 7, 8, hopefully big league options because, attrition's always going to be there even when you're remarkably healthy. Like for us last year, I feel like, one of the reasons we got to where we were was we were pretty healthy overall. We stayed pretty healthy. That being said, Garrett still didn't start the season with us. Clark, missed some time there in the middle of the season. So those things are going to pop up and have a way of working themselves out. The biggest thing right now is making sure we're getting Marcus ready to roll and hopefully play a big role for us.
His history of being outspoken, though, is that a concern, or what you hear today makes you not worry so much about it? I'm comfortable. I would say more than comfortable with the conversation I had with Marcus today and where I think his mental preparation is, where I think he is physically. Like, we're in a good spot that, he certainly understands the situation. I'm sure he's heard some of the things this winter. You can't control everything. Those are things that I think, especially as you gain experience in this game, certain things are out of your control. Going out there and doing your job at a high level has a way of quieting some of those things.
Brendan.
With Marcus, did he ask you what his role was, or did you just say, whatever it is?
Yeah, no, he didn't ask me. We talked frankly about, a number of things. First checking in on how he's doing and where he's at. Talk a little bit about last season and the end of the season and understanding the situation that, we're in right is what it is. And let's just go let it work itself out. So it was a really good conversation. And again, last year, I think Marcus came in with a lot of noise around him, and I didn't experience that. I experienced a guy that was a great teammate that came ready to go, and in the end was a big reason why we won our division, because he was a part of a rotation that gave us a chance to win night in and night out.
And who's your leadoff guy?
I don't know. No, we'll see. I really don't. I mean, you could throw out 6 or 7 names, and I'd go, I could see that. So that's where I'm at right now on it. It could end up being a shared thing where, verse left, verse right situation. Hopefully it kind of smacks us over the head, and becomes very clear at some point. But I really don't have someone in mind necessarily as, that's who it's going to be.
Gary and Chris.
Just circling back to DJ, you said he's healthy. Did you get a chance to see him at all this offseason or even the last couple of days over at Himes? And if so, how's he looked to you?
Yeah, more the last couple of days at Himes. Looks good. He feels good. He's ready to go. So I'm excited to see, again, there's always going to be the naysayers out there, but really this is in and around a guy that is a great hitter that's had some tough, nagging, bad injuries that have cut into that greatness. So there's no telling what he may be able to do if he's healthy. And again, maybe it could turn into a role, or it's not one person manning that position. Maybe you piece it together with a couple of things and matchup based, and there's a lot of different ways to do this, but there's also opportunity there for a lot of different people.
Thanks.
Chris.
With DJ, it's obviously he's had the foot injuries. Is there something that tells you that he can be the hitter that he once was, other than just being healthy?
No, I think health and who he's been. I mean, I really think last year he was in position to really bounce back from the year before. What we were seeing in spring training was really promising, was in line with who he's been throughout his career. And then he fouls the ball off his shin there with, a week left in spring training, and now misses a good chunk of time and just kind of playing catch up. Then you have the nagging things and just kind of derailed them a little bit. So, no, I think health, I understand there's nothing that's a given or a guarantee, but if you were to tell me we're going to look up in June and DJ is right in the middle of a significant role on this team, it won't surprise me based on if he is healthy and what he is as a hitter and a defender.
Greg, to the right.
You said the physicals are looking good, but are any guys that come into camp with any injuries from the offseason?
Jake Cousins has a forearm strain, so he is he's a couple weeks into a no throw, which is probably a 3 to 4 week of no throw. So seems like it's going well, and he's on track to start throwing hopefully at some point next week or the following week, and then the build up from there. So that could leak into opening day perhaps. But we'll have to see. Clayton Beater had a little shoulder issue that looks like he's through. He's already throwing sides, but he's a little probably behind as far as the build-up goes.
And then Hal said a couple weeks ago that maybe you guys would talk about an extension in the coming days and weeks. Has that happened yet?
Nothing's happened yet. I know there have been some talks around that. That'll handle itself and work itself out. The reality is I'm so fired up to be here today and to get to work for this organization and for Hal, that hopefully something does work out. There's no other place I'd rather be and no other team I'd rather be doing with it. So we'll see. We'll see how that stuff plays out. But we at least have had some talks.
Pete, in the middle.
And, are there any sort of under the radar pitchers you're sort of eager to see in camp, especially early?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to throw out any, like Hartley threw over there today, a guy we're excited about. But we signed Tyler Matzik the other day, who's missed I think the entire 23 and then came back last year, but has obviously had some big success. I haven't got to see him yet or meet him yet. But, I'd rather not say at this point before anyone's really jumped out on that field. We've had a pretty good track record of finding some diamonds in the rough or guys that weren't necessarily expected to do big things that all of a sudden emerge and play a big role for us. And hopefully we find a couple of those guys this spring through non-roster invites or even guys on the roster that take a big step forward. So we'll see. But that's probably more of a question a week, 2 weeks from now.
Take a couple more if there are any. Chris, to the left.
The Dodgers spent a good portion of their offseason talking trash about just how clean this team is. Did you take any of that personally? Do you think any of the guys took that personally?
Probably a little bit. I mean, don't like hearing that. You hope. But the reality is, we didn't play our best in the series, and they won. So, they have that right to say whatever. Hopefully we're in that position next year and handle things with a little more class. But, that the reality is it's a great team. It's a great organization with a lot of great people that, I happen to know and respect too. So, a few people, sounding off, isn't necessarily how I would want to draw it up, but they're the champs. They have that right.
Take Bruce and Brendan.
So what's your message to Yankees fans on day one of spring training?
Buckle up. This is look, it's just such a exciting time of year. A lot of us have been freezing our butts off up north, and the Super Bowl comes to an end, and that's like, man, it's a sign. It's time for baseball, and hope springs eternal. Like, that certainly exists in this camp with us, and we are, we're going to do everything in our power to put forth a great team and hopefully get back to, and this time win a world championship.
Brendan. Bruce, can you pass the mic? There you go.
Just back to the Dodgers thing. Do you wonder at all where that comes from? That's so unusual to see another team talking about another team the way they did after winning a World Series against them. Like, is that what was it like for you to hear that? And do you wonder just what was that about?
I don't know. You didn't hear that from the Freemans and Betts and Otanis and Kershaws and whatever of the world. So, look, sometimes, you're coming off the drunkenness of winning a world championship, and, some guys are more inclined to spout off and be a little more colorful than others. And, again, that's their right. They won. And, again, hopefully we're in that position and do things a little better.
Last one, Randy.
How much of concern is that, and can you speak to what you got from him last year? He's one of the guys that kind of
did
a pretty good job for you guys.
He was great, especially in the second half of the season, and just who he is against right-handed hitters especially. Concern, I guess a little bit, but also feel like, we're 15 days into a 3-4 week no throw, and he seems to be doing well and progressing how he should. So I'd like to think it's a bump in the road. But we'll see too. You know, you gotta clear a lot of hurdles to get back to the point of especially where he was last year. So we think he's going to be okay, but technically we're still in the early stages. But there's no question he played a really important role for us, especially in the second half of the season.